Over now to the business report with Joel Crosskill.
Lots to share with you in the business report today. Only the second of its kind. Jamaica Mastercard Day 2025 meant access was granted to the overlap between the present and future of digital transaction in the region during a masterclass in domain expertise courtesy of Dalton Fowles, country manager Jamaica, Trinidad, Barbados and Eastern Caribbean for Mastercard, who described how a transition from cash-intensive commerce on a digital journey to a world beyond cash is being observed and encouraged.
In 2019, Mastercard established a local office in Jamaica. We really have a small team that is focused on driving digital adoption, financial inclusion, and the acceleration of payments digitally across the region.
In a cash-intensive economy, outside of the fact that there's quite a bit of cost associated with it, it does not necessarily allow these small businesses to grow. So helping them to become part of the digital landscape, and we tend to use the word inclusive growth, right? Because it's extremely important that they're part of this economy. If you sell in cash, then you access to credit is very limited because your bankers doesn't have a frame of reference. They don't have the basis on which to give you credit, and credit is what drives the economy. Credit.
While the global technology company's brand identity seems almost synonymous with the payments industry, Fowl suggests that as technologies and consumer habits evolve, so too does opportunity for growth.
Around 2019, when we look at PCE penetration, right, and PCE refers to the percentage of your personal consumption that you're doing by a card, it was about 40. Today we're about 45. And we expect in Jamaica and the Caribbean, broadly speaking, that by 2030 we're going to lift another 10% to 55. So again, we're seeing the evolution where, and the research bears it out. More and more people are very comfortable making payments electronically. As the technology evolves, what has happened is that we're really creating an environment where everyone, for example, smartphones, could potentially become an acceptance device. So we're very, very high on tap on phone. It's what we call a low-cost acceptance device. So no longer does small business need to incur the additional cost of actually investing in a physical point-of-sale terminal. In the payment space, there's a lot of risk associated with payment transactions. It's our responsibility to make sure that consumers feel secure while we're building out innovation, making it convenient to pay where you want, when you want, and how you want. We're really pivoting in tokenization. What is tokenization? So if you go back a couple of years, for example, when you put your card, for example, out there online, that PAN could be intercepted. And all the relevant data could be intercepted, and that's usually the basis of a lot of online fraud. The network have pivoted to tokenization, and what that means is that when you do a transaction now, your actual card number is not going over the web anymore. It's essentially translated to a token, which can only be used for that transaction. So even if intercepted, it has no more use.
In describing the company's vision in driving digital innovation across a network that already operates so reliably that a notification is all that's needed to allay fears of unbalance, the Mastercard country manager's grasp of what is at hand in the payment space was so pointed that you might have been able to hear the exact moment the pin was dropped.
The next wave is authentication. And this is now where, for example, and you may have heard of 3DS2, for example, which was essentially the first wave of making sure that when you do a transaction, then the cardholder can authenticate that transaction. By 2030, we're moving to what we call digital by default. We're actually going to be implementing more biometric authentication, which means that, for example, if you're already doing Face ID on your phones, for example, when you do an online transaction, you're actually going to get that push message to ask you to authenticate. And that's where we believe, for example, we're going to have now the merger between card present and card not present, where essentially it doesn't matter whether you're doing it in person or online, the transaction will be tokenized and authenticated, which means that the likelihood of fraud is almost eliminated.
And that was your business report. I'm Joel Crosskill.